Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while since I posted, but I thought I'd share a video here with you going through a track that I actually created almost, well, actually it has been more than a year ago, and that's the No Time to Die inspired track called Agent Nomi 007. And in fact, it's actually the track that you're listening to right now that I'm playing in the background if I'm editing this all properly here. And it's actually on Spotify since September there, so you can check it out. Maybe I'll put some links or something like that, or you can go to my website. But enough about plugging on that. I think you're probably here more interested in what goes on behind the scenes, behind creating a track like that. What kind of virtual instruments am I using? What are the, I don't know, chord progressions, percussion, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be diving into the DAW, and I'm just going to go show you some of the process that I took to create this track. So without further ado, let's dive right into the track, and I'll show you all the ins and outs and some of the thought process that went behind the different pieces. Let's get into it. All right, so we have the DAW loaded up here, and I hope you can see everything. I'm still playing around with some of my scenes and stuff like that. But yeah, this is Ableton Live 11, and I have here all the different instrument groups within Ableton Live. This is in the clips view. So if you're not familiar with Ableton Live, there's a, the scene view where we have a bunch of clips, and we can kind of play around with the different clips and loops and stuff like that that we've developed, and then come up with an arrangement eventually, either when you're, you know, like live during a set, like if you're doing a performance, you can start playing different scenes. So everything across is considered a scene. So each one of these rows is a scene, and then each one of these individual items here, that's considered a clip. So that's like MIDI information, stuff like that. But if you hit the tab button in Ableton Live, we'll go into your more traditional arrangement view. So this kind of looks a little bit like what you'd see in Cubase, for example, where you just have a very linear progression, and you can you know, still have clips and stuff like that, and or MIDI events, and then you'd arrange it that way and copy it around, all that kind of stuff. But this other view I find very, very inspiring sometimes when you're trying to come up with different ideas and picking and choosing different loops and stuff like that. So if you're not familiar with the chords and the sequences of the Bond theme, here's the chord progression for the Bond theme. So it's a simple C minor, and then you go into an A major, sorry, A flat major, and then you go into an F, and then you go back to the A flat major, and then you just pretty much alternate through that, and then you play a melody over it. So it's actually super simple and clean, which is what it should be for film scores, and making it memorable and hummable for folks. And then of course with this track I melded in a little bit of the Billie Eilish No Time to Die melody, so we'll hear a little bit of that as we go on here. The track, you kind of want to save the best, the meatiest, the most beautiful, lush section for the crescendo or the climax of your track, if you will. So you'll notice that as things progress further and further down the scenes, so the top is the beginning where you want to start off light and introduce some ideas and stuff like that, and then you keep adding and adding and adding, and that's kind of generally the idea when you're developing this. So here we go. So if I just played the scenes one at a time, you can hear the ideas of the progression. So there you go. So that starts off with some good energy, some cadence, and you're anticipating, you know, seeing scenes of Bond and all the agents. And then if I move on to the next scene, so I'm just hitting play here, scene by scene. So you would do this in a live performance, for example. And here I'm actually using the horns from Native Instruments Symphony Essentials, actually. But I'm using the single tongue articulation here. So if I just stop this for 1 sec here and I play for you manually what that sounds like, it's... Oops, let me turn off that piano. All right. So I don't know if you can hear that. I hope you got headphones on. So it's kind of this very cool, ominous low horn there. So I thought it added a cool vibe to it. So I threw in an oboe here. I think this is from Nucleus, from Audio Imperia. They have a really great set of solo legato instruments that sound very real and very beautiful. Oops. Sorry, I got to arm that. All right, so it sounds like this. Super realistic. Highly recommend the Nucleus package as well for sample libraries. So we added that. So let's go back to what that sounded like. So you got a bit of a pad, you got a bit of percussion, and then now you're just adding on something to catch on to for the next progression. All right, now we move on to the next scene, which is a further build-up. All right, so you could hear that that was a 4-bar section for that whole scene. Actually, I think a lot of these are 4 bars typically for these clips. There might be 1 or 2 that are 8, but yeah, the idea is that you can play them over and over again, and they should kind of line up the ends with the beginnings and stuff like that, and you can go forever. So here, actually, we jump pretty solidly into a whole bunch of instruments already. Actually, I'm surprised that I already dive right in at that level to all this. So what's going on here? So here is where, again, if you ever wanted to add more suspense to anything, I find going with the trems for strings is a good way to give that that kind of a vibe. So if I solo this, and let's just have a quick look at what patch this is. Yeah, this is in Nucleus as well. And this is the strings, the entire ensemble, and we're doing a trem, so you can hear that. So we're actually doing the same thing, I think, in Nucleus, and I think I mixed it in with Cinematic Studio Strings as well. And this time it's with a sustain instead of the trems. But because it was if I look at this clip and open it up, it's the same kind of chord pattern. I was able to just copy it over, so why not save some time? I know you mixing folks and stuff like that would probably slap my wrist a little bit for, you know, everything all just straight copy, and probably want to be more picky and choosy on some of those tones and watch out for, you know, mud and stuff like that. But I thought it sounded okay. So always go with your ears, I think. And we're not going for absolute realism here. So if I just soloed these things here, you can hear what's happening. So that was Nucleus. Okay, and I'll stop it there. That's 4 bars. And then this is Cinematic Studio Strings. Gives it that really nice, warm, lush tone that we know Cinematic Studio Strings has. So the combination of those two give it that bit of suspense and that blanket that comes around when that theme comes in, and you get, I hope you get the chills. I know I did when I was first messing around with this, and I really loved it. Okay, so that was the string section of what's happening there. Let's look at the horns. So horns, once again, You know what? I put in oboes here for brass. What a noob. Oboes that would win. But I guess I just chucked it in here. Yeah, nothing really changes here, I don't think. I think it's pretty much the same. Yeah, so I'm continuing on with that rumble that we heard earlier. And same thing with the oboe here. It's just those simple notes. So if I expand this, I think I'm just going C to C. It's nothing to write home about for interest there. Let's see what happened here with the epic piano. Okay. So it's basically, yeah, the chord progression I was just playing, but this time we're using the very beautiful Spectrasonics Keyscape with the Triumphant Victory patch. And once again, this is an amazing library. And that's what it sounds like. So that was really easy to put in. Funny enough, I actually put the Angelic Plectrum piano beside that, and I just doubled it up. So there was Triumphant Victory, and then I added on the epic piano on top of that. So why not? Let's go big and bold. So this rounded it out, added a nice softer Agent Nomi-esque, maybe a little bit more of a feminine touch on top of the triumphant piano. So together they sounded like this. So one thing to note, you might have heard a little bit of clips there, is it is pretty heavy on the processing on your CPU, because I think there's quite a bit of merging of the patches and effects for reverb and stuff like that happening for those. All right, so that is it for that particular scene. Let's move on to the next one here. I think this is where the vocals come in. I'm really sorry about the clipping here. I guess I'm recording everything so with OBS, so it's also causing a little bit of chugging here, but you get the idea. So what's the vocals that you were hearing there? I will jump right into that. So in the vocal section, we have Vocalise 2 here, and if I just solo that, you can hear what that sounds like. Really, really beautiful. This is like one of the first sample libraries that I bought for whatever reason. I really love the sound of female vocals just cutting through mixes and really giving you that something to focus on among the bed of your instrumentation of everything else. So in this case, this started off with that theme very slowly for this particular scene, so that's what was added. I think that was really the only thing added. Oh, okay, there's also the sub bass here. So I don't know if you can hear it unless you have headphones, but yeah. So I wanted it to have a modern vibe to it, because we're kind of in a little bit of a transition of Bond and new Agent Nomi, and this give it a little bit more of a modern tones, which I match with the percussion as well. Actually, I had a little bit of percussion here. Oh, that was tubular bells. I think I actually turned that off. Let me also not arm that. But yeah, you'll hear in the next scene where I really embrace even more of that hip hop modern vibe. So I'm just going to stop here. All right, so let's move on to the next scene. So then the next build-up would be this here, where we throw in not only that sub, we add yeah, so we're adding the percussions. You can hear kind of that trap like 16th hi-hat in there, and the kick drum. So let's solo some of that, hear what that sounds like. Let's just hear the kick. And this kick is just the Chromatone kit, actually, that came with Ableton Live. And then we add on the 808 core kit, and then just threw on some, some 16th hi-hats and stuff like that. And at the end of the, let's keep going along here. Maybe, I don't think anything else really comes into play in the next scene. I'm not sure what the difference is. Okay, so we have a variation in the string section. Let's hear what the difference is in the next scene. So, okay. So here is when you start hearing some counter melodies and stuff like that with the... Okay, so then the next scene, let's just dive right into that. So it continues on. All right, so here is when, like I said, you're building that climax, and we're adding more and more things, almost the whole kitchen sink. It could be a bit of a nightmare with mix-wise, but I thought it still sounded interesting. And I think in the final arrangement there was a whole bunch of tweaks to make sure everything all just sat in okay. And transitions between all these scenes, obviously, you'd have to tweak volumes and all that kind of stuff. Right now, I'm just going harshly through all the scenes once again, but it was just more to get different ideas and different pieces again. So yeah, that was that scene. So what was added here? I think I added a little bit of extra timpanis underneath there to make it sound fuller. It's very slight on top of the rest of the all the percussion already that's happening, because remember you had the kick, and then we added the hi-hat stuff. And then here's when I just went for action drums. Oops. So action strikes. Again, this is part of the Contact, Native Instruments full package. Super handy for laying stuff like that. And then we're adding like a more of a live drum kit as opposed to the 808 and the other kit from Ableton. And then to round it all out, I put a timpani underneath. You can just barely hear it, but just makes it a bit fuller, gives it that orchestral vibe. All right, and then remember the sub bass gives it that mood. And then we're adding in some little ornaments, I guess. So some of this is kind of at the end, but it gives that mysterious vibe with this detune tone here. Let me see if I can share with you what's happening here. Let me stop that. So this detuned tone. Let me just stop everything else and just play that. So I added a ping pong delay here with this tone. So it adds that mystery kind of tone. All right, pads here. So once again, more Spectrasonics products. So it's Omnisphere, and I'm using the Endless Opera pad for, again, just filling out and really wrapping you with the vibe here. Let me solo this and play for you live, maybe. Really, really beautiful. I mean, you could just have a simple score just laid under like this, right? Beautiful stuff from Eric and the crew at Spectrasonics. Okay, so we add the pads there as well. What else did we add in that scene? Sorry, let me close this here. Let's It's been a year for this, so this is kind of fun to go through what happened. So let's hear it in totality again, once again here. Okay, so I missed the part here with the French horns. So once again, this is part of the Symphony Essentials Brass, and we are just using a decrescendo articulation here. And yeah, if I solo this, or actually I can just play this clip by itself. Let's hear what that sounds like. So you hear that decrescendo. So the attack is really immediate, and then it just kind of fades down. Yeah, I really like that tone. It worked pretty well there. So that was what was added, and once again, the string. Yeah, I guess that's what happens when you're doing it in mid-bar and hitting play here. But let's try that again. So yeah, when I was putting all this down, this part got real lush and real beautiful, and I really loved how it turned out here. Okay, let's get down to the last couple scenes here. Here is where we introduced, I think, some of the Billie Eilish type of themes again with it. So, and we also added in some vocals by Clara Soares. So this is, if I open this up, this is the ETHERA Emotive Soundscape 2 library, Legato. This is probably one of the most used patches for me, I admit it, but it just cuts through the mix and it sounds so great legato wise. So if I'm hitting the keys really quick, obviously it doesn't sound very real, but if you adjust some of the articulation of the CC controllers here, and you, depending on the, I think it's the velocity that you're hitting the keys with, she changes into different samples. So different samples, and you can kind of pick and choose and see what blends in and works well. So let's just hear that by itself. Oops, I'm sorry. Let me stop all the other clips in that scene and just play that solo. So I think she's just tracing basically the root note of the chords. Nothing super complex about that. So let's stop there. And yeah, the pianos, once again, I think we were doing that Eilish theme. Okay. It's basically just the rolling bass line there that helps accompany everything. Okay. And it's just doubled up. We just, remember, we copied it with the other piano patch. All right. Moving along here. Now, this is a little fun Easter egg type of thing where I added some Wakanda. I don't know. I just needed a way to put this patch into something because I loved it so much. It sounds like this. Let me just play it just for fun. So just to add a little bit more spice with that modern vibe and hip hop and excuse me, an interest in the crescendo and in the climax there, I threw a little bit of that on just for fun, for spice. And if anyone noticed it, good on you. So let's play the whole thing, the entire scene there. Okay. So I don't know if you heard that. Well, you must have heard that. That was a very distinct synthesizer arpeggiation in there. So I again want to add that modern vibe. We added some electronic synths. So here we're using Retrolog. Is it Retrolog? Yeah. So this is the Retrolog synth that actually is part of Steinberg. So I brought it into Ableton here. Found a kind of cool patch called Davy's Lead. And I threw on, I don't know if you've seen my other video on to get inspired with some ideas and stuff like that on using arpeggiators. So basically with the same chords or notes in the same key in the chord, you can play around, and I think I just left it at some very simple notes here. Again, in like C minor and I think it's, yeah, the A flat major and the F and all that we talked about. And if you put the arpeggiation on there, it can sound pretty interesting and give it, again, a little bit more of a variation and not bore your audience with the same thing over and over again. So it sounds like this, soloed. So yeah, I say modern, but you could also call this a bit retro from 80s or something. And then we added and of course the Wakanda fun. Actually, so it's the same patch. What I did was, just to make it bigger and more interesting, was to actually pan one hard right, one hard left. Yeah, I guess it's just a bit of a mixing tweak there for fun. So you get that width. Okay, so that's basically the entire entirety of it, and we get down to the finale. Let's just play the entire thing first, and then we'll talk about what was added. I believe it's more variation in Clara, and we're adding a guitar. We're adding some damage percussion pieces in there. Let's see. All right, so obviously you heard the very iconic guitar riff at the very end there. So I just wanted to pay homage for that. So let's see if we can open up and look what guitar patch I actually ended up using. Okay, so once again, it's from Omnisphere. Omnisphere is super versatile. So you'll notice that we have yeah, there's a whole ton of guitar patches for Omnisphere, and looks like I used smoked Tremolux here, and I think I probably used a second one to offset with that. Actually, this one has an arpeggiator with it, so yeah, same thing but with an arpeggiator. So actually, let's hear what that sounds like. Oh, yeah, I was hoping for a more modern edge to it with a little bit of that delay and that arpeggiator on top of the straight theme, which is this. Let's just play it by itself. Yeah. So nothing super fancy there, or something to write home about. But yeah, that was that. And of course, you probably heard Clara with a variation of what she was singing. So before, in the scene previous, we had this. Okay, so she was just tracing the chord notes, and then now I think we go up an octave with her just for more dramatics. In the second loop, I think, or the oh, there we go. Okay, so it's a very minor modification. So we presented the what she was singing before, and then now we're repeating it, but then we're adjusting it slightly. So one of the common techniques there. Here, yeah, nothing really changed, I don't think, with the chord patterns and stuff like that for the choir or from Vocalise. All right, I think that pretty much covers all the different major elements, and then from there it's a matter of hitting this record button and then playing scenes at a time, and as it's recording in the arrangement view, if I would look at it, it would start to draw out what you're playing. And then in this view, you'll end up with something like this. And this is where, like I said, there's obviously going to be some tweaks where you don't want it to be so jarring that the clip's just playing. You're actually needing to worry about transitions and everything like that. So that's been all added. I think we had some volume automation. I'm not a crazy mix engineer or anything like that. I probably should hire someone way better than me in figuring all that stuff out and making it beautiful and wide and spread and mastering as well. But yeah, I just go by what I feel. Okay, so one interesting thing here in the beginning, I added a riser, or no, a boom here. And I did add a little bit of a riser here and com riser. So let's just solo this and hear what that sounded like. All right, so that just added to the filmic cinematic vibe with that. Okay, and then for that tension in the beginning again, in addition to the trems, I guess I threw in some of this to give it that edge, like what's gonna happen, you know. So we'll stop that. I just want to hear what's happening with this riser. I don't really see any data in here. Was that a change of my mind and I just left that track? Bad hygiene. All right. Okay. So as far as effects of what I'm using, it's not a whole heck of a lot. There's a bunch of EQs and stuff like that. I won't go bore you with the details of all those little cuts and adds. But for reverb, I'm actually using the TC VSS reverb here. I will show you what that looks like. This was based on video that Christian Henson did on the TC 6000, which I can't really afford or want crazy bunch of upboard gear. So the next attempt of a reverb was the TC VSS3 here. So I'm using large wormhole, and I've used that a few times with my other tracks like Journey and stuff like that. And yeah, this is all I'm using for a reverb. And for delay, I'm not sure if I have a whole bunch. Oh yeah, I do have a few sends that are going to the delay. I think it's just the stock delay that comes with the usual template. So nothing super fancy. I don't think I need to really go into hardcore to that. And like I said, there's a few tricks of adding reverb to the pianos and stuff like that, and some of the other tones from the different libraries to match the overall cohesiveness, because one library will be super dry and another one will be kind of wet with the room already. So you kind of want to tweak what you send to the VSS3 here that I'm using to make things blend a little bit and sound believable in the same space, roughly. So I think I'll leave you with playing the track finally here in its entirety of what was laid in arrangement view, and I'll see you in the next video. I hope this was informative and interesting to see what goes on behind the scenes, some of the thought processes, and show you that really it's not too complicated to come up with tracks like this, and it can be really inspiring to play around with some of these patches. All right, have a good rest of the week, and I'll see you in the next video.